You're watching 13 WMAZ Law Call, sponsored by Macon Law Firm, Reynolds, Horn, and Servant. Your rights, your calls, live. This is 13 WMAZ Law Call.
Hello and welcome to Law Call. I'm Morgan Dukes, and tonight we're talking about nursing home negligence. No one wants to hear this about nursing home negligence when it comes to their loved ones, but sometimes it happens, and sometimes we've got to take legal matters. So with us tonight from Reynolds, Horn, and Savant is Mr. Carl Reynolds and Wendell Horn. How are you, gentlemen?
Great.
We're great, Morgan. How are you?
I'm feeling good, and I noticed that I don't see a neck brace, so I know you're feeling even better.
I am free at last. I lost my neck brace Friday, so I've had a few days without it, and that feels great. I'm still a little bit insecure, but my physician says it will get better every day. So
absolutely,
I'm real happy to be free of that brace.
All right, and you look great. Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you.
And so do you, Wendell. It's good to see you tonight.
Glad to be here.
All right. Tonight, we're going to talk about a very serious matter of nursing home negligence. Nobody likes to hear those words, but it does happen. So we have some questions here. And, I know the two of you, between your expertise, you will have some good answers. So let's just jump right on into it. Our first question comes to us from Frances. And Frances has a double doozy here. She says, my aunt got a bed sore in a nursing home and then sepsis. What should I do? So how do you advise someone who gets sick inside the nursing home?
Bad situation.
Well, it's first of all, not really enough information in the question to give much of a definitive answer about it. I mean, bed sores happen. Patients who are bedridden have to be moved and repositioned periodically to avoid a bed sore. That's not to say that they don't sometimes happen. So whether or not it's caused by their failure to reposition or move the patient, presumably it is. Then the sepsis or the infection would be something that happens frequently. But if that came about following the advent of the bed sore, it's something that surely should be looked into. In that regard, I think that the thing we need to say to everybody is, if you have somebody in a nursing home, everybody in that nursing home needs an advocate. I mean, family members who have to have somebody in a nursing home should visit them frequently and regularly, and see what's going on with that patient or that occupant of the nursing home, and report anything that looks like it's wrong. Now, on the bed sore and the subsequent infection, it may or may not be a matter that should be handled legally, but they should talk to a lawyer who would in turn talk to somebody who is in that area. And again, like a lot of these cases, anything that involves professional negligence of any kind requires an affidavit from somebody competent to be in that position before you can file a lawsuit. But that requires a lot of investigation and research before you could know whether there's anything there to do or not.
Wendell?
Well, just to echo what Carl was saying, family members and friends should visit people in nursing homes. They are in nursing homes because they are compromised, either mentally or physically or both, and can't look out for themselves oftentimes. So all family members should be cognizant and recognize the fact that things might be happening that they don't know about and be mindful of.
Okay. Well, that leads us to our next question from Erin, who really does have a concern about what's happening in the nursing home. Erin's question goes like this. My mom is in a nursing home and is becoming more withdrawn and easily agitated. The employees say it's dementia, but I have a feeling that there's something more. Should I call the police or an attorney? All right. What say ye?
Well, She's becoming withdrawn, and they say she has dementia. If it's his mother, I would get a second opinion. I would get somebody to see her competent to give me better information than the employees of the nursing home. You know, I mean, having to put a loved one in a nursing home is probably everybody's worst fear. As Wendell said, I mean, you should visit them regularly and frequently. In this instance, I mean, it sounds like he's keeping up with what's going on with his mother. I wouldn't think about the police. I wouldn't really think about a lawyer. I would think about a healthcare professional to look at her and then see what the situation is and how a healthcare professional would evaluate his mother and then make a decision about that. What say you, Wendell?
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, the police are not going to give you much relief. An attorney may be helpful, but until something really actionable occurs, an attorney's not going to be involved. Carl, we were discussing, what is it, the Omnibus Act?
Well, an ombudsman, there's an ombudsman act, and you can always go to that and report something. But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't want to report something prematurely, or for God's sake, don't go to the police over that. I mean, this is a private matter. I would start off with whoever is in charge at the nursing home, talk with them, and then decide how candid they are and how helpful they are, and then go from there. But certainly, I would get my own. I'd get my mother an appointment with a person competent to evaluate her.
Okay.
And I mean, there's a reason that the mother's in the nursing home. She can't look after herself. They're talking about she's being more withdrawn. Well, she doesn't have family to interact with, friends to interact with, and she's just kind of there. And the dementia kind of goes along with being isolated, so to speak.
Okay. All right. Our personal injury attorneys tonight, Carl Reynolds, Wendell Horn, and they are taking your questions and answering your questions about nursing home negligence. When I come back, I have a question for you about how you can keep an eye on your loved ones. But the question is it really legal? Stay tuned. More of Law Call is next.
You're watching Law Call on 13 WMAZ with personal injury attorney Carl Reynolds, who has recovered more than $500 million for his clients, dedicated to helping injured Georgians for more than 50 years, plus support from his Macon law firm of Reynolds, Horn, and Servant, including attorney Wendell Horn, focused on protecting the rights of car and truck wreck victims across the state, and attorney B.J. Servant, aggressively representing those injured by medical malpractice, hosted by award-winning broadcaster Morgan Dukes, featuring guests from across Middle Georgia. Your rights, your calls, live. This is Law Call on 13 WMAZ.
And welcome back to Law Call. I'm Morgan Dukes. What happens if you have a loved one in a nursing home and neglect is taking place? Well, that's what we're talking about tonight with personal injury attorneys Carl Reynolds and Wendell Horn. And gentlemen, it's always good to see you, have you both on the set at the same time, and of course, to get your expertise to answer these questions. Our next question comes to us from Claire, and Claire has a very interesting twist on a question that many times we all want to know what's really going on inside the nursing home. So Claire's question is it illegal to set up a nanny cam in my dad's room? I want to be able to check on him, but the nursing home administrator says no. So what should Claire do?
Well, I doubt that any nursing home would give consent to that. I know that there have been a lot of instances where people have set up nanny cams and have discovered some remarkable abuse of patients, especially patients who are unable to communicate or take care of themselves. As to whether it is legal or not, I would have to know more about the particular circumstances of what they're doing and who is going in and out of there. I mean, what do you think, Wendell?
Carl, I don't think it would be illegal to set that up. I can tell you most nursing homes are not going to allow it. They're going to have a problem with it because it does expose some pretty rough stuff that might be going on that they would rather not be exposed. You know, and if they're saying no, you've got a choice: either remove your loved one or comply with what they're saying. So they can tell you whether or not you can or can't do it. That doesn't make it illegal, though.
Okay.
No, certainly not. I mean, you would gain a lot of useful information. I wouldn't do it unless I suspected there was something wrong.
Right.
I mean, if your family member appears with bruises or marks on their body, or if there's something to arouse your suspicion. But again, just as we have said, there is no substitute for having an advocate, a family advocate, who frequently nurses and evaluates the situation. I mean, that's the first thing you do.
Okay. Well,
I do think that if you did it in a clandestine manner and you didn't have the permission of one party or the other, if your loved one could give consent, then certainly I think that would be fine. But if they're mentally incompetent, you set up a nanny cam in a clandestine manner, that could border on being illegal.
Well, I think you're surveilling somebody without their consent. I would really like to research that and come back to that question maybe at a later show.
Okay.
To be sure, I would hate to give bad information on that.
You
know, in Georgia, you can record a conversation from one side and not the other. For instance, Morgan, I could be talking to you on the telephone. I can record that conversation if I want to. That's not illegal. In some states, it is. As far as setting up a nanny cam or camera, a video camera, secretly, I'd really need to think about that, and it would also turn around probably whether you'd want to look at both the state and the federal statutes on the matter.
Okay. And I can understand why somebody would want to do that, when you're not able to actually get into the nursing home. For example, we're in a pandemic state right now. COVID-19 is everywhere. And one of the places we cannot visit these days is nursing homes. So how do we keep an eye on our loved ones, if we can't actually go into the building?
Yeah, let me go back to the other one. You've got me thinking about it a little bit. And with the technology available today, I mean, for that matter, you could set up a computer in that room where it's like a video conference, like we're doing right now. And so the people there know that you're doing it. I mean, then there would certainly be nothing wrong with it. And all you got to do is just like FaceTime. You see what's going on in the room as it's going on.
Ah, okay. Well, I like the sound of that. Yeah, especially, in this COVID season, until we can get through this, because when you can't get in, you just can't get in.
So going back to your original question, I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. We can move on.
No, go tell us what.
You want to hear the question again? Okay. Well, the question was, is it illegal to set up a nanny cam?
No. I mean the one about the COVID.
Oh, okay. My question was, how do you keep an eye on your loved ones in a nursing home when you can't actually go into the nursing home due to COVID?
I think there's a lot of FaceTime going on with phones with the patients in the room and that sort of thing. A lot of people going visiting outside of the window. That's what I understand people are doing at this point.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times they're having certain visitation with limited people coming in to maintain social distancing and that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, some of them have outside areas where you can go and visit. They bring the patient out in a wheelchair or whatever, and you're in an outside area, just like a restaurant that serves outdoors but not indoors. But I think the FaceTime stuff is really becoming more and more a regular course of business now.
Okay.
And it sounds like a terrible existence for the patient, but you know, if that was my loved one, I would want the nursing home to be doing everything humanly possible to keep COVID out of that nursing home.
Absolutely.
We just
Absolutely.
hearing and reading about too many tragedies that occur once it's introduced into a nursing home setting.
Okay. Well, speaking of COVID, there is a question here from Jaida, and Jada's question actually talks about COVID, and maybe you can shine a little light on this very quickly. Can you see a nursing home if they brought in patients to your loved ones, and this question really has to do with the loved ones getting sick as a result of somebody coming in, a new patient coming in with COVID? How should they handle that?
Did you say, can you sue or can
you sue? My apologies. Yes. Can you sue the nursing home if they bring someone in with COVID?
The short answer to that is no.
No? Well, there you go.
I think we have passed legislation in the state of Georgia which actually creates immunity from that sort of a lawsuit for nursing homes. And again, this is not on the question, but something that everybody needs to know about. A lot of the nursing homes now on their intake forms have the person who's coming in agree to arbitration rather than having the right to file a lawsuit in court. And that's something people need to think about, is whether or not you need to read carefully what you're agreeing to when you go in the nursing home.
Okay.
But as far as the COVID matter, I think that's going to be largely taken care of by the legislation that's currently being enacted here in our state.
All right. Personal injury attorneys Carl Reynolds and Wendell Horn are our attorneys tonight. Nursing home negligence is our topic. We'll be back with more of your questions and answers next on LawCall. If you have questions for our attorneys tonight, Carl Reynolds and Wendell Horn, you can reach them at Reynolds, Horn, and Savant, 478-405-0300, or on the web at www.reynoldsinjurylaw.com. And please don't forget to follow Reynolds, Horn, and Savant on Facebook. You'll definitely see and learn a lot if you go to the Facebook page. Our topic tonight, nursing home negligence, is a very serious matter. So let's get to the next question. Our question comes from Melissa, and Melissa has a question about her mom. She says her mom was misdiagnosed and was on the wrong medication for months. And it was only during a second opinion that they found the error. The doctor is refusing to take responsibility for his actions. Does Melissa have a case? That's what she wants to know. Carl?
She may not. She could have a case with, I think the Latin phrase is damnum absque injuria. That means without injury, there can be no damages. So just because she had the wrong medication, went on it for some period of time, and then the mistake was caught, it would depend on whether or not it caused any harm to her or any injury to her. If it didn't, there may or may not be a case there, but there's no damages. Now, if it did, then it's a question of whether or not it was done negligently and that was the cause of the injuries. And with most of these cases, that would require a consultation with a lawyer who can say whether or not to have given that particular medication to that patient was malpractice. That actually is a malpractice case.
Okay. Wendell, anything you want to add to that?
No, not really. That's
okay.
Said no injury, no foul, no harm. I mean.
Oh,
You know, I
okay.
was trying a case one time, and a fellow made that comment about damnum absque injuria, and the other lawyer got up in his closing argument and says, "You know what that really means, don't you?" And paused for a second, and he said, "It means it's a hell of a way to run a railroad." So don't be put off by that, but it really means that if there is no injury, even though there may have been negligent conduct, you still don't have anything to sue over.
All right. So be it. All right. Well, let's move on to Lewis's question. And his question is, my grandma was injured in a nursing home fall. She has had lots of problems since she's been hospitalized. And if she dies before the lawsuit is settled, does that mean that the lawsuit is over? That's an interesting question. I know a lot of people wonder about that because people do die before lawsuits are settled.
And that does not extinguish the case. It might hurt the case because you're asking the jury to award damages for someone that's deceased. It would particularly be bad if the fall was what led to her death, but no, it doesn't extinguish the case.
Now that's correct. It doesn't extinguish the case. The hardcore reality of it is when you're dealing with nursing homes and the very elderly, you know, the wheels of justice, everybody's talking about justice, the wheels of justice turn very, very slowly. So when you start off with a very elderly person, an elderly person with complications or illnesses negligently caused, and we've done very many of them, usually when they come in, you can almost say that the plaintiff, the initial plaintiff, will more likely than not be around by the time the case comes to a jury trial. Okay. That's the same way with a lot of cases where you have a misdiagnosis, and the result of the misdiagnosis is going to be fatal. You go into it knowing that the person who has been injured or hurt is not going to be there, but their representatives will be there. The case is not extinguished. It's usually in two parts, and we can do this at a later time because it's too much to get into now, but one part is the personal injury and the pain and the suffering. In Georgia, that's a separate case from the wrongful death. The wrongful death goes to the heirs and next of kin. The pain and suffering and personal injury goes to the personal representative of the person. We can deal with that at a later time, however.
All right. Personal injury attorney Carl Reynolds and personal injury attorney Wendell Horn, you have been wonderful tonight. It's so good to see you both. But until we get together again next time, it's time to say good night. So good night, gentlemen.
Good to see you, Morgan. Good night, everybody.